Hello, this is Ed Sanderson, CEO of Ducerus College Solution. I have a very special guest on with me today, Debbie Elder, innovative education expert. That's a mouthful, Debbie, but I'm sure that you need to explain that so everybody understands what you really do and maybe a little bit more background. And then we're going to talk about 5 good habits for 2021. And I know it's been a tough year, but for a lot of young people that get ready to go into summer, it'd be a good time to reestablish or establish some good habits. But before we get into those 5 things, maybe you can tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. As Ed mentioned, my name is Debbie Elder. I live in Texas, and I currently run an elementary school. And we do a lot of very innovative things here on our campus. We teach financial literacy, we teach speech class, we allow our children and students to have a lot of voice and choice. We really look at education very innovatively, and I'd love for all of you to come and check out our website and get an idea of what we're doing and what you miss by not being able to attend school here.
Let's get into it. So there are 5 things, 5 good habits for 2021. Let's start right off the top. Let's talk about physical health. What can you say about physical health and why that's an important habit?
If we don't have our health, what do we got, right? It's really difficult to do anything else. So when we're looking at health, I want to make sure our listeners are aware that diet is really important, exercise, staying hydrated, especially as we're stepping into these really warm months, that we want to make sure we're drinking plenty of water. Having an exercise routine, I know I found, Ed, if I have an accountability partner, somebody that I can work out with, really ups my game and makes sure that I stay to the course. It's really easy for me to talk myself out of getting up in the morning at 5 to go work out. But when I know somebody's waiting for me at the gym, I don't want to let them down. So I highly recommend that to our listeners to ensure that they hook up with somebody that they can work out with, and it makes it a lot more fun too.
I really like that idea of an accountability partner. But what I want to talk about in this subject matter is the value of sleep. I think a lot of young people, and I would say adults too, kind of like the idea is I'm going to stay up all night, I'm going to cram, and they feel like it's a badge of honor if they say I stayed up 18 hours or 20 hours. Why is sleep more important than trying to get 20 hours of hard work in or study or just kind of exerting yourself there? Why is sleep an important component of this physical health?
I was one of those students who could never stay up all night. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't physically do it. So I never was even tempted. But a lot of my friends in college did. They did not do so well. You need to replenish. That's what your body does when you sleep. And if you don't give your body what it needs, your brain's not going to give you what you want when you're trying to go in and write that test or get through that essay. I don't like to cram a bunch of stuff together. I like to space things out. I like to be very organized. Getting enough sleep at night allows me to feel really good, which allows me to stay on track. I have a lot of people in my life that I know who push and burn that candle at both ends, and things slowly start to crumble around them and they don't understand. It's like they lose control. Things start to slip away. One of the things that you can control is the hours that you sleep. And I highly recommend that you do that because the feeling of satisfaction, overall energy level is so worth it.
While we're on that subject, I know there's a lot of discussion about how to get to sleep, and I'm sure you have an opinion on this. Television screens, computer screens, telephone screens, how can that impact negatively plenty of sleep or quality of sleep?
Yeah, so they recommend that you should be off your screens at least 2 hours before you go to bed at night. I think, and that's a great sort of pairing with exercise, right? Making sure that you're physically tired when you get into bed. I keep a journal by my bed, Ed, so that sometimes I get like crazy ideas in the middle of the night and I want to write them down, so I have it right there. Sometimes I'm not quite ready to fall asleep and I'll journal some thoughts. I like to just get it out of my head and onto paper so that I can rest and sleep restfully. And it really seems to help sort of put my mind at ease. So making sure that they're off their screens, that they've been physically active so their body is tired. Watch the caffeine late at night. Take care of your body, guys. It's the only one you got.
So number 2 on the list for successful 2021 was mental health. Talk a little bit about that and why that's important.
So one thing that we've noticed here at school is we have added to the end of each class a reflection time. Why do we do that? Well, it's important to me that my students reflect. What worked in class today? What didn't work? What did I learn? And they just take a few minutes. My first graders are drawing pictures. My fifth graders are writing sentences. It really varies. but it really is an opportunity to sort of sit back and think about what was I doing? It adds to that giving it meaning and purpose. We also teach growth mindset here, which if you're not familiar with that term, a growth mindset is willing to learn new things and new ways to do things. A fixed mindset believes that whatever they were born with is all they get. So with a growth mindset, one of the big words to remember is the word yet. So a student, I'll hear say, I can't do this math yet. And that's the understanding that they can get help, they can learn about it, they can watch a video, they're not going to give up, they have resources. And that leads to a really strong sense of confidence and self-assurance and self-awareness, which are all super important to me, that my students receive those before they leave us at the end of 5th grade.
What is the importance of the third line item that you have, which is a success routine?
Being able to manage our time, being able to have a successful morning routine, and then being able to set success habits are all really, really important. And I think one of the big ones is a morning routine. I just had a student in my office yesterday who has made some really bad choices, unfortunately, recently. And so we went through some of the times in her day where maybe she could start to rethink things, maybe make a mindset shift. And she told me what she does in the morning. I went, wow, you got a lot of time in the morning where you're in front of the television, really just numbing out, when you could be using that time to listen to a podcast, to listen to something on YouTube that could teach you something. Maybe you could do like I do. In the mornings, I listen to motivational information that gets me up. I'm kind of like the mama here, right? And if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So I got to walk in with everything I got on fire for both my staff and my students and my parents sometimes. And so I like to be prepared, and that's what I do in the mornings. I set my goals for the day. I really think about what I've got going on. I start to visualize. So I've already visualized this meeting together with you, that it would go well, that we'd have lots of fun together like we always do, that people would really get good information from what we're talking and sharing. And I think that all of those are really powerful. They don't take a lot of time. And when you build those success habits, when you're, aware of your finances, when you are making sure you're hanging around with the right people, making sure you're using your time so you have good life balance, all of that really adds to the success they can expect to have in their lives, which that's what we're all trying to do, right? Is be successful.
I think the thing that jumped out at me, if you're a parent, this productive morning routine or routines in general, how do you implement that in an environment where a student has a summer off? They've got almost 3 months in some cases. How do you do that without getting them to kind of freak out and go, this is my free time, I earned this time, I want to relax? How do you balance those things?
What we do is we start our summer, and I've got several students doing it right now, and they do a wish list. So you imagine Aladdin has showed up, you rub the lamp, out comes a genie, and she says, oh, you don't get 3 wishes. Today you get 101. So they write down their 101 wishes, and then what emerges, Ed, is categories that we can use to set goals. So we set goals, and then we talk about how to reach those goals, which then backs us into how to set up successful morning routines. So instead of it being me, the parent, telling you what to do, you're telling me what you want, and we're restructuring your day to make sure you get it, so that you get the best and the most out of your summer. And I know from homeschooling my 2 daughters, to working with foster kids, to having students in and out of my home, that works every single time, because it's the kid's idea. You're simply helping them get what they want. And isn't that our parents' job, right? That's our job as leaders, as parents, as educators.
Number 4 talks about community participation. And I think summer is a good way to get that moving. Mm-hmm. I think as we're recording this, COVID is starting to subside. People are getting a little bit more freedom, but let's break that down into 2 pieces. One, what does community participation actually mean? And secondly, if you don't have the best circumstances, maybe you can't get out and about, how can you still participate in a way that's rewarding and accomplishes that goal?
Community participation is, for me, 2 things. It's volunteering, which is doing things I like to do, maybe to help an organization I truly believe in, and serving, which is providing. I have gifts, so I need to be able to give back to society through serving. And it could be something as easy as speaking to a group that needs information, that is unable to pay me for my time. That's something I do to serve that community. Maybe I go out and I clean a yard for an elderly person, and that's volunteering. Both of those feel and fill a big part of who we are emotionally, and we need to keep our emotional strength just as solid as we do our physical strength and our mental strength. And I think being able to participate like that is important. The next piece to use over the summer that I think is really beneficial, especially for students getting ready to go to college, is to start networking. Start meeting the people that are going to be going to your college. Get to know them. Meet your roommates. Meet the people that are going to be in your dorm with you. Start to be with influencers. So this year we did a really cool program at school. It was called Celebrate Your Dreams. And it was all because of a conversation I had with you last summer when we talked about how kids say when they're young what they want to be. Then they go all the way out doing all these other things because people say you can't make money, it's not for girls, it's all these reasons. And then they end up as adults being right where they knew they wanted to be. So we met with different people and professionals in the fields that my students want to be when they grow up. And they got to interview them, sometimes in person, sometimes over Zoom, and really learn what they're doing. So students, this is a great time to intern, extern. There's so many ways to use your time. But the people you hang with, the people you meet, influence how you think. So be careful who you choose to be with. And really take advantage of the time you have in the summer to meet those people. And don't be afraid to ask for introductions. Don't be afraid to ask people to be your mentor. All of my students were instructed to ask that question. They have all made tremendous connections this year, and they're just little kids. So you guys can do this.
I'm gonna tell you something, this subject is really near and dear to what we talk about here at Ducerus because, when it comes to academics, that's statistical information. I think colleges and universities or even you talk about networking, people who are looking to hire people for an internship or a job, they wanna know that they've developed those skills pretty early on, that they can communicate, they know how to ask good questions. I think that's an important part of the conversation. Point number 5, let's elaborate on that. What do you mean when you say emotional health, and how is that different than physical or mental health?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you know how many times the average 4-year-old laughs in a day?
I'm sure it's a lot because 4-year-olds are funny to me, but I don't know how many times. Let me guess. I'm going to say 50 times.
No. Try again. It's way higher.
150 times.
400 times a day. So I have the best job ever. Not that I work with 4-year-olds, but I work with kids. So the average adult, 4 times a day. So we need to laugh more. When you laugh, you release a lot of natural endorphins and dopamine and serotonin, and you feel good. It's just chemical. You need to do stuff you love every day. And if you're not sure what you love to do, figure it out. Spend some time this summer getting really clear. What do I love to do? What brings me joy? When do I get in flow? And if you don't know what flow is, that's when you're working on something, you're like, oh, it's been 30 minutes. Holy cow, it's been 5 hours, right? Yeah. And so find out what those are for you and spend time doing it. And most importantly, play. So much, we get so busy, we get so serious, we get thinking we have to do all these things. No, just relax. If you are serious all the time, then you attract very serious issues to manage. Have some fun, be playful. People really enjoy being. Think about the people who like to hang out with. They're the fun ones. So why don't you be the fun one? Have fun.
I like that. 4 times a day, that's not enough. I got to work on that myself.
I know. That's why I pick my staff very carefully. It's funny.
Well, I tell you what, Debbie, that was fantastic. Let's go over those 5 things again. We've got physical health, mental health, a successful routine, community participation, and emotional health. You've done a great job elaborating on those. Debbie, if they want to learn more or chat with you about how to implement those things in their world, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you or to find out more information?
The best way to get a hold of me, Ed, would be to go to my email, which is delder, ELDER, at Shady Oak, one tree. Everyone wants to give me a forest. Shady Oak Primary.com. This has been awesome, Ed. Thank you so very much for allowing me to speak what I speak about.
I appreciate the time as always. And by the way, Debbie and I recorded an entire course wrapped around this and time management and a whole bunch of other cool things. Look for that on our website, ducerus.com. I'm sure you will enjoy that as well. Debbie, appreciate your time as always. Look forward to chatting with you soon.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, bye.